All right, take it away, Kiana.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Like Christine said, my name is Kiana Grant, and I am the 2025 Program Manager for the Civic Impact Academy. And so I can talk about a lot of things of what we're doing in the Academy this year, but I want to kind of start a little different and really open the floor up since we are small but mighty and passionate in this session today. So if we could just come off of mute and just briefly introduce yourself and how you came to know about the academy and what's bringing you here to want to learn more and potentially sign up when applications open next Tuesday. So um, I'm not going to call anyone. I'm going to see who's going to be our first one to come off mute.
Kiana, I'm going to jump up. I'm Elizabeth Flemister. My pronouns are she, her. I actually work with Civility Localized, and I am here to learn more about Civic Impact Academy and support the team as we welcome folks who may be interested in joining this fall.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And
Yes.
Thank you.
Elizabeth is our brand manager, and she manages our online brand and our voice. And so, whenever you see the messages and images online, really what led you here today, Elizabeth had a really big part in that. So, we want to thank her for being here as well.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Elizabeth, for coming in.
Of course.
Anyone else want to share?
Go ahead, Selma.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Salma Rashid. I actually am not in the Charlotte area. I'm in Durham. I'm a budget analyst for the city. And I stumbled across Civic Impact Academy because somebody I was connected with on LinkedIn had like reposted it or they had done the program. So I'm not really sure how exactly I stumbled across it, but I thought it was interesting and I wanted to learn more. So that's why I'm here today.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Salma.
I'm Stephanie Griffin. I do live in Charlotte. I'm an administrator at a local independent school in Uptown, and I learned about the Civic Impact Academy and Civility Localized because I was a participant in the city's Civic Leadership Academy in the fall, and I noticed that Civility Localized has done a lot of partnering with the city. So I started exploring the website and was just curious about how that partnership works and then stumbled upon this. I'm super eager to continue to find ways to um, volunteer in and support the work of the city of Charlotte and its partners as we sort of meet this inflection point in our city's sort of trajectory, but also I'm a social studies teacher at my school in addition to being an administrator, and I'm really eager to think about ways to support the next generation of advocacy and change makers.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Stephanie. Welcome. Anyone else want to share? Okay. Well, and I wanted to start off like that because when we jump into the cohort in September, that's how we start off. We are very engaging. We really want to foster this connection of community, really being able to speak our minds freely about civics, the engagement, where we struggle, where we have our strengths in, and really grow that in this cohort. So on the screen, Christine is sharing her screen. So this is kind of a brief overview of what the Academy is and what you can expect to learn. Now, I'm not going to read it word for word, but I just want to kind of extract some of the details. And so, when we're thinking about our learning objectives, we are wanting to improve civic engagement knowledge of everyday residents and leaders. And so, once again, community engagement, which Civility Localized is very strong in our local and beyond because Civility Localized has done a lot of community engagement and work outside of the city of Charlotte, but that's our strong point. And so that's where the Academy really helps foster, not only just from what we do as Civility Localized, but really what we do with the community as well. Really wanting to empower through knowledge of how do the government and community residents really intertwine. And so then also enhancing the social impact leadership skills for public sector professionals. And this is one that we're really honing in on this year, is really driving that workforce development, cultivating those soft skills when you are in a public setting or public facing role, and really showing how do you get buy-in from all of your stakeholders, not only just leadership in the government sector, but also the community when we're trying to drive policy change and really grow initiatives to help transform our region into one that we all want to live in the future, you know? And then building social capital from both groups that affect positive, sustainable change, kind of reiterating what I just said. You know, we're really wanting to take this cohort over the next 14 weeks, beginning in September, excuse me, really take the next 14 weeks and deep dive into how do you start from the ground up? And if you have a change initiative, how do you build the blocks to make sure that you actually see it happen in your neighborhood? And so I want to speak here on the Community Design Challenge. Christine, do you want to interject? Okay. Okay. So I want to speak on the Community Design Challenge. So a part of the cohort, the 14-week cohort, we insert this Community Design Challenge. And so the idea behind the challenge is when we come in from day one, there's normally something, an idea that our participants already have that they want to see change in. When we came in last year, we had economic mobility. We had someone who was really focused on land use in their neighborhood. And so the community design challenges is on day one, you don't necessarily have to have an idea, but 9 times out of 10, you probably do. And what we want to do is we want to help you design this community initiative as you're going and progressing through the cohort. So the community design challenge will be a computation of at the end of the cohort at our graduation where you present. And so we're going to go through 14 weeks of identifying the history of the region. We're going to have a very powerful advocacy session. We're going to have a very powerful stakeholder session. We're going to discuss government budgets and how do you understand, you know, how does the government pull and create these budgets that affects change in initiatives in the community. And so with all of this, these topics that we're covering over the next 14 weeks, at the end of it, your community design challenge should be living proof of how you plan to implement that in your community or organization, the change that you want to see. So this right here is our 14-week curriculum. And so, like I was saying, you know, we're day one, week one, we're hitting the ground running. We're going to have a foundations of civics and civic engagement led by Christine, since she has she has the work experience of, you know, understanding the civic engagement environment. And then we have someone, a historian from the Charlotte History Museum, or Museum of History, excuse me, actually leading this Charlotte History session in week 2. And this was one of our participants' favorite last year, just simply seeing how the region changed and has changed over time, and just really understanding the history of Charlotte. And then we have the local government budget and policy impact, advocacy, media relations. This one is actually in person. So we also have someone, this media relations shows and teaches you how do you get your story told. We see where we're trying to figure out how news clips are selected. So our instructor for this session has, I think, Jennifer has over 20 years of experience in news media. So this session is in person, really, really good. And then I'm not going to read it verbatim unless, Christine, you want to go through something.
No, I mean, I will chime in just kind of based off of the last slide in this one, just really reiterating that the curriculum, it all comes together for your project plan at the end, which we're calling the Community Design Challenge. So through each week, you learn a different element of advocacy, a different element of civic and community engagement. And each of these sessions will have a perspective from a government professional and the perspective from a community leader or community-centered person. So these sessions are going to combine the two together so that it can help build and strengthen your community design challenge at the end. And with the community design challenge, I mean, it's always good. Let me go back. It's always good to have a project plan. It's kind of like a capstone project. And the idea is that this will get you closer to the thing that you're passionate about, that you want to advocate for, and to potentially attract funding for that idea to get funded or to get implemented in some way, or to just get the buy-in that you've been looking for that idea. And then as you were talking about the curriculum, I also wanted to say, I know that this seems hyper localized, like with the Charlotte history, but a lot of these elements can be applied to other communities like Durham, right? So if you're working in the Durham budget office, you understand kind of how local government policy and budget is put together. But imagine you being in a cohort with someone who doesn't have that background and experience. And so they're learning, from you and from your experience. So it's not just all a bunch of government leaders in the same cohort or all community leaders in one cohort. But then when it comes to the Charlotte history part, it's really important for people to understand like what's in our ground, what really got us to where we are today, because that's the only way you can move forward, is to learn where you came from. Um, so because we want this to be for leaders across the state, it could be tricky for everyone to get there in person. That's why we're doing a hybrid program, but we really do think that these topics will cover, statewide, in North Carolina. So I just wanted to touch on that. And then Kiana, I knew you had some fireside chat questions, so we can dig into that. And then if questions come up later on, you guys can feel free to put them in the chat as well.
Yes, and thank you, Elizabeth, for that reminder. So the program overview can also be found and downloaded on our website, civicimpactacademy.com. And Elizabeth has put it in the chat for you all to be able to click and find that. So yeah, so I have a few questions so that way we can kind of unpack a little bit more about the Civic Impact Academy and why we exist. So Christine, the first question I have for you is what inspired the creation of the Civic Impact Academy and why now? What role does empathy and social awareness play in civic leadership, and how is that built into the curriculum?
Got it. So why now? Why Civic Impact Academy? The main why is I wanted to bring people into the work that we were doing and have it not be so transactional. And when it comes to community engagement, it you don't want it to be transactional. You don't want to just go out into a community and reach out to people and say, hey, give us your input on this, give us your time, give us your feedback, give, so we're extracting value from the community. And oftentimes, because of our contracts and the way that our contracts are set up, we're not always able to give back. And being being a consultant B2B, a lot of times people are not able to participate in our work unless it's related to a certain project. Like, oh, well, what does Civility Localized do? Well, we have a survey project that we're doing right now, and so the Civic Impact Academy was a way to really create a greater community around civic engagement through this cohort style program. And then just really thinking about the next generation of civic leaders. I would love for the next Charlotte mayor to have gone through the Civic Impact Academy, right? Really just kind of cultivating this group of people who maybe they're not at the manager level yet, or maybe they're not at like a director level yet, but they want to get those skills. How are you going to really boost those skills to have empathy out in the community, to really get you to the next level? So that was really why I wanted more friends. I wanted more community. And that's something that we wanted as a company. Civility Localized, our values, we lead with trust. That's one of our main values, is trust, inclusion, and togetherness. And with this being owned, we're not a nonprofit. We are a for-profit entity right now as it stands. Civic Impact Academy could be a nonprofit in the future. But right now, because we have like private ownership, that means that we're not affiliated with any institution. We're not affiliated with any particular government. So we can say what we want in these rooms. And I think it's important to have a brave space where people can have these conversations without worrying about their employer looking over their shoulder or what have you.
I love that. I love the fact that you said you wish you hope that the next Charlotte mayor comes to the Civic Impact Academy, because this academy is strong enough to really cultivate those skills for someone to take such a huge leadership role. So I love that. So how does the academy address the disconnect between traditional leadership training and the needs of public sector professionals today?
Absolutely. So, traditional, how does it address can you ask the question again?
Yeah. So, how does the academy address the disconnect between traditional leadership training and the needs of public sector professionals today?
Got you. So when it comes to traditional leadership training, which, there's nothing wrong with, I have gone through multiple leadership programs, locally and nationally, and many of us here might have gone through leadership programs. I know somebody mentioned the Civic Leadership Academy. I have been through Leadership Charlotte, right? And so Leadership Charlotte, let's just use that as an example, is a year-long program, incredible networking, incredible connections that are being built. Um, and I think the difference between something like that and something like this is that we are talking about tangible skills that are being built. And I'll just go to the next page here so you can follow along. But like for example, tangible skills that are being built to navigate complex public challenges, and actually meet with people and talk to people. And also, with this being a 14-week program, it's kind of like something that you can get done in a college semester, right? Rather than in a year-long program. So you're going to be upskilling and getting to that finish line quicker. But we always keep engaged with our alumni. And there are opportunities for that networking and for that mentoring to still happen afterwards. So, that's the main difference. It's not kind of your normal stuffy leadership training. We're not going to be doing personality assessments. It's not necessarily about your personal leadership growth. It's about learning the skills to help you become a more empathetic community member. And then for the government side, it does enhance those leadership traits that you might need in your workforce that are not readily available. A lot of times, companies and organizations worry about the bottom line, and they're not always worried about some of these softer skills, right? So I pulled up this page because this participant, April Clark, she actually worked in the finance department for the city of Concord. And her passion, like she loved working in the public sector, but her passion was actually helping to obtain affordable housing for Black single mothers. And she felt like in her volunteer capacity, she just wanted to know how she could work towards her passion a little bit more. And her project was actually to start researching nonprofits and start volunteering at nonprofits that did just that. And now she is on the board of a local Concord nonprofit that procures housing for single moms. So, she gained confidence, she gained networking skills and experience. And also that deep dive session on affordable housing really hit home for her. So, that's just one example.
So I love how you said that the tangible results are upskilled within 14 weeks. And, and it's right after the graduation, our participants, our alumni can take it immediately into their workforce, into their communities, and really apply it. So I love that. So we're going to kind of switch a little bit, and I'm going to ask, what makes a strong application stand out to the selection committee?
Good question. What makes a strong application? We are looking for folks who have passion for the community, and maybe they're already coming with an idea. They already have something that they want to work towards. I think that makes an application really strong. And the application process is a really simple process. It's a free application. It's about a one-page application. It's not multiple pages. But there is a narrative question in there that asks, what does community engagement mean to you? And why is community engagement important? So we really want you to think deeply about that. And it's non-political. We don't want to get too political in our sessions, but at the same time, nobody is going to be turned away due to any of their beliefs or anything like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, just come with an open mind, come with an open heart to learn more, um, and fill out the application in full. Our application process, we have a panel of reviewers, which consists of our team, and we're going to be going through the applications through the month of July.
Okay, so with that, when we're thinking about our applications or the applications and what makes a strong application, this question asks what kinds or what type of projects or discussions have the past participants brought into the academy with, from their own agencies or um, nonprofits or just individual
Gotcha.
community members. So what type of projects or discussions have they brought into the academy
Yeah, let me
that
actually,
helped us with the applications? Yeah.
gotcha. Let me actually show you. Let me stop sharing real quick. I want to share here. If you go on our website, civicimpactacademy.com, we actually have a list of the community design challenges. And so let me just actually show you guys some of those. So if you go to meet the cohort, this was our inaugural cohort from 2024. We had 16 members, 16 people started, and I think 15 graduates. One person was not able to complete the whole thing. So I'll give you an example. Alexis, her project, she worked for the city of Charlotte. She still works for the city of Charlotte in the transportation department, Charlotte area transportation. And so her project was bridging the gap, accessible and reliable public transportation. So in her job, she felt that she was not able to do enough to provide access to public transportation. Her job in CATS is she's a web content designer. So she does content creation and design for a local government. And we like to have meaning with our work, right? So she's like, I love this work, but I want to be able to do more. And so her project aims to improve public transportation access for lower income people. And so what she actually did was she created an outreach program that addresses those transportation needs. So we helped her get some ambassadors for her outreach program and went from there. I'll give you one more example. Another good example is Joseph Margalis. So he's a community member. So he doesn't work for government, but he is a community member and he serves on a local board. I think he served on the UDO board, which is land use development kind of board. Um, and his interest was in land use. And I want to say, like, for example, urban planning. And so his big thing was, I want to create a third place in my neighborhood. And his neighborhood is called Derrida. And so his project was called Derrida Third Place. And a third place is somewhere you can go that's not work or home, where you can come together and create community, like a park or something like that. So his project focused on a disconnected part of Derrida, which has become underused over time. He actually found a vacant plot of land in his neighborhood, and he was very curious. He was like, I'm curious about what this land is going to be used for. So throughout the academy, he was able to get contact with the city of Charlotte and found out that the city owned the land. And he was able to have conversations with folks in the planning department to understand, okay, what's going to happen with this land? Is there an opportunity to do any placemaking or to do any activations or to preserve the land in my neighborhood? And so you guys can read more. It's still in progress. There hasn't really been an outcome for this just yet. He did apply for a placemaking grant. So he used the project plan that he came up with in the Civic Impact Academy to apply for a placemaking grant. And I thought it was really cool. Another element from the Academy, which was helpful. I don't know if you can see it on here, but he also was featured in the local newspaper about this project. And so that was another one of the things was we want you guys to be getting attention, get some eyeballs on these ideas because that will help you move it forward.
Christine, I just dropped the link to the article in the Observer in the chat, and I just edited the website. So if you refresh, it should be there.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So yeah.
I mean, powerful projects coming out of
Yeah.
cohort one, right? A lot of
Yeah,
movement.
yeah.
So,
Coming out of cohort
and
one.
and I think that just shows how committed we are to not just to say we're having a cohort just to say it. We're really intentional about helping our participants really see traction in their ideas. So, I mean, great examples, great examples. So just kind of moving along. Let's see. Let me check the time real quick. Okay, we're doing good on time. We're doing good on time. Let's pause for a second. Any questions? I know that's a lot of information. It's a lot of information. Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
I have just a quick question. I love this. I am already like, oh, I know I have ideas. But I'm curious. So like I understand that I love that the curriculum connects practical skill building to the project. Is there an expectation that in addition to the virtual sessions, there's like asynchronous work happening as well toward the project? Like what's on the backside?
Good question. So we also have a playbook that accompanies the academy curriculum. And so that playbook has a section for you to there's some reflection questions and there's some prompts in there that will help you build out your design challenge throughout the program. And in terms of the homework or the things that are happening on your own, like I said, we have kind of the alumni network, and you guys are going to be in community with one another. So if there's reading materials that you want to share with the group, you want to share it with your cohort, we invite you to do that. And this is still tentative right now, but we're trying to get some activities, some in-person activities set up. Like, for example, I don't want to make any promises, but an example is a bus tour, so that you can understand kind of the history of Charlotte and, where things are at physically. So a local bus tour in Charlotte. And then also like a field trip to a city council meeting, so that we can all understand, how those things work. So there is some activities happening outside of the sessions. And there's a playbook that goes along with the curriculum. Yeah. And then kind of the foundational elements, well, really, we want to share that with the folks that are accepted into the program. But we do have kind of those core pillars of community engagement that is shared with our cohort. Other questions?
Okay. So just moving right along, I think we're doing really, really good on time. So, Christine, what advice do you have for someone who may be on the fence about applying?
I would say just apply. It's a free application, just apply. And also I would want to understand, what are the hesitations, and see if I can answer any questions about any hesitations for folks. Can y'all see my screen? Okay, good. So if you're on the fence, let me just go ahead and answer those questions. You're probably wondering what's the commitment, right? So it is a 14-week academy, and the time commitment is we are asking for 80% participation So, I know that feels like a lot, but what we did is we actually built in some breaks. We built in a couple of breaks towards the back end of the cohort, because we heard from last year, we need some more time to really digest all of this information. Last year, we did this in 10 weeks. And it was quick, and it was fast and dirty, but it was
With
great.
no breaks.
Yeah, it was intense, very intense. And I did that because I was just trying to be kind of convenient with my own schedule and avoid, holidays and things like that. So we were finished by Thanksgiving last year. But what we heard was, well, we want to get more time to know each other. We want to get to know each other. We want time to digest the information and really sit with it, So we extended it out to 14 weeks. So the cohort will end that first week of December. And then we put in a couple of breaks, and then we put in an in-person session so that people can get to know each other. So 80% commitment. What else?
Christine,
Yeah,
can we just clarify that classes, correct me if I'm wrong, are they still being held on Wednesday evenings?
that's correct.
And are
Yep,
they 2-hour sessions?
that's right. So
Okay.
all of these sessions are on Wednesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And
Okay.
so you can understand what that commitment looks like. And then there's a short break after the first hour. So that way you can make arrangements with your household, just to say, hey, this is my session. This is my cohort time. This is my academy time. I actually had someone to say, man, this is what I look forward to every week. Every Wednesday, I
Mhm.
know I'm going to be learning so much and I'm going to be doing so much. I told my kids and I told my household, like, look, Wednesday night is for me. So we've had folks in the cohort tell us that. And we also try to make accommodations for people. I'm very open to accommodating people's needs. It's just that, if you do have multiple absences, we're going to make note of that. And you're not going to be able to really have a strong design challenge project, at the end if you miss too much of it. So yeah. The other question that comes up when it comes to people who are on the fence is, what is the financial commitment? So there is a enrollment fee. Application fee is totally free, but the tuition is $547 per participant. And this is something that we anticipate to be covered by your employer, if this is a professional development opportunity. But if you don't have the ability for your employer to cover it, we do have scholarships available, and no one is going to be denied due to financial constraints. However, we do think that, having some skin in the game and having this as an investment is really going to help strengthen our programs, and it helps make it a better program for everyone. All right. Let's see. Being open-minded, submitting your design challenge at the end. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Christine, for going through, just some of the questions that maybe some of our participants today may have, and then those who will see this recording later may have about being on the fence of applying. So I'm going to pause right here because we kind of went through a little bit of the application expectations, maybe clarifying some questions about what it looks like to apply and going through the cohort. And I'm going to stop here and just to see if we do have any questions. We have about 20 minutes left on a little bit under probably 20 minutes, but just to see if there are any questions about the application process, any questions about being on the fence. If anyone has any questions they would like Christine or myself to address. And I just want to throw in there that applications open Tuesday, July 1st. And so we are really excited to see the applications come in and to really read about our community and what they're desiring from the academy this year. So the floor is kind of open. If anyone has any questions about, in particularly the application, any questions about if they're on the fence, anything to clarify that we can clarify. Okay, when are applicants notified about the application status, about the application status?
August 10th. Yep. So
So
we take a couple weeks to review the applications, but you're notified by the 10th.
and I was just going to state that the application open period is actually the entire month of July. So we're running from July 1st through July 31st. So that's why notification happens in August on the 10th. So it's the entire month. Any other questions about the application process?
Yeah. And if not, we're going to be sending this out to everyone who registered for the info session. We'll send the recording out. We also have FAQs on the website. And if you are thinking of like a partnership opportunity or maybe even a sponsorship opportunity, maybe your employer or like a group that you work with, you're thinking, man, this would be really good, in a partnership with them. I don't know if this is the right time for me to be a participant, but I would love to work with them in the future. Connect us. That would be so helpful. Just, connect them to me and Kiana, and we would be happy to explore that further.
Okay, so no questions about the application. I do want to kind of end. I know we're kind of wrapping up quickly, but I do want to ask this question to you, Christine.
Mhm.
What do you hope each participant walk away with beyond the skills and a certificate?
Mm, I want all of our participants to walk away with the confidence in navigating our political systems. And I want people to know that their voices matter. I grew up in an environment where, I didn't always feel like my voice mattered or my thoughts or, my ideas mattered. So I want people to walk away with that confidence and that sense that their voices do matter and that it's worth it to participate and to be heard. I know that right now, our environment, it feels like, sometimes we feel a bit disenfranchised. We feel like, our vote doesn't matter or the things that we're doing locally, it's like not making a difference. I want you all to have the confidence in the tools and knowledge. Knowledge is what leads to confidence. Access, right? Access is what leads to power. So I really want everyone to have access to that at the end of the academy. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, Melanie, I see your hand out. Go ahead.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Thanks
I've
for
been with you
joining.
guys for many years, but I just haven't been like a participant. But because of the other academies and engagement leadership academies, I've gotten to meet Christine and know her for years, like since like I think 2019.
Yeah, you were
So,
there in the Amplify Charlotte days.
yeah. So um, it's like a twofold thing. I will like to join. I don't know about finances, but I heard about the scholarship opportunity. But it's very important for me to speak anytime because I'm a civic leader and civic leaders do things for free. I don't clock in, I don't get paid, but I am definitely um, out, engaged, and always everywhere.
Mhm.
And it's very important that people understand that volunteerism is important. Volunteerism is free, and we have to be heard because that's a
Mhm.
part of what people do in the beginning before they get the big job. And I just got the big job. So now I just got it like 3 days ago. And now I'm hoping, thank you. I mean, like I could cry because after all those years of doing civic free stuff, and I mean very big stuff, I got something that I'm passionate about. I'm disabled, I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm all over the city. And for me to have a job with Lion Services is a whole bunch of blind people And that is my passion, disability. So I would like to know, maybe Christine, if you could come one day, your group, or even have a virtual meeting, because that's a lot. It's 400 people that are in that building. So and they're working, they're sewing,
Yeah, I've heard about this.
you got to come for a tour.
Isn't this
It's
the place that
amazing.
does
Someone found me on LinkedIn.
that's
and
amazing.
and I went for a tour, and I was just like, so the places doesn't look that good. Tryon, off of Tryon.
No. That's the place that does the Braille translations, and they do
It
a
does
lot
a
of
Braille translation, and it has an eye clinic.
Oh,
So,
cool.
and when you walk into the tour, you're just like, but it's the tour that's really like, oh my
People.
God. So they open the doors,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the Sound of Music. You're like, holy moly, 200 people in this room working, and working mostly for the government,
Mm-hmm.
sewing stuff like camouflage bags, uniforms, making things that people would never even think. So that's one building, and it's like a total of like 375 employees. But I would love for anyone that's a part of this cohort
Mm-hmm.
to be a part of coming for a tour, so they can see or talk, because that's a population that hasn't been tapped in, that as an administrator, I'm going to make sure they get involved with, I think Chase or Wells
Yeah.
Fargo, about banking,
Yeah.
about political leadership, about speaking up, about learning different things. So that's
Got
the only
it.
thing I want to tell you guys.
Okay. No, thank you for sharing.
Oh, sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and congratulations on your new role.
Thank
So
you.
so something like that for the academy would be, so for example, if disability advocate, if that's your passion, then your program or your project would work towards how to get people, to be a part of that, how to do more outreach for people who are disabled, or how to get more people to come in and support folks who, need ADA support and
Yeah.
all
And
these
they
good.
don't even need support sometimes. They just want to be a part
Yeah.
of something that has kind of alienated them for a
Mm-hmm.
long time. Because these people, they're lovers, they're mothers, they're grandparents, they're guardians, they're
Mm-hmm.
voters, but they're really not into the political field of civic engagement. Just
Mm-hmm.
working, and they're mostly just working.
Love
So
it.
I just love them just to see people that are doing things in the community and hear what's going on.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that just about wraps it up for today. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure y'all get a recording to this. If you're not already on our newsletter, please go ahead and join the mailing list on the website so that you will get the application link first thing on July 1st. All right. Well, thank you
Thank you
all.
all
Have a
for
good
coming.
rest of your day. All right. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.